Today, we're diving into something really fundamental, a question that kind of sits at the core of your whole financial life. Are you just working to earn an income, or are you actually building wealth? Believe me, there's a huge difference, and getting your head around it can completely change your future. So let's start with this. Just think about it for a second. What are you really working for? Is it security? That steady paycheck? The feeling that you've got a safe job? Or is it freedom? The ability to live your life on your own terms, without having to trade your time for money. This isn't just some deep thought. It literally defines the financial path you're on. Okay, to really unpack this, we need a framework. And there's a brilliant one from Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's called the cash flow quadrant. And it's a super simple but really powerful way to see where your money actually comes from. So the quadrant is split into two sides, a left side and a right side. Now, on the left, you've got the E's, the employees. They work for a system. It's a job. Then you have the S's, the self-employed or specialists. For them, they are the system. Think about a freelance designer or a doctor with their own practice. If they don't work, the money stops, period. Now, the right side, that's a whole different ballgame. The B's, or business owners, they don't just work in a system, they create, own, and control the system itself. And finally, the I's, the investors. They use their money to invest in other systems, and their money makes money for them. But this isn't just about 4 ways to get a paycheck. It's really about 2 completely different ways of thinking about money, about risk, and about your life. Here it is, the big difference. The left side is all about the hunt for security. It means you trade your time directly for dollars. The right side, though, that's a hunt for freedom. People on this side build and buy systems so their money starts working for them. It's the difference between working your entire life and actually having a shot at true financial independence. So the big question is, how do you do it? How do you get from the left side of that quadrant over to the right? How do you go from just seeking security to actually building freedom? Well, the answer is surprisingly straightforward, but it takes a huge shift in how you think. It all comes down to this. You have to stop thinking only about your income and start getting obsessed with building assets. An asset is anything that puts money into your pocket, whether you're actively working or not. That right there, that's the engine that powers financial freedom. All right, so let's talk about the big guns. We'll start with 2 of the most powerful foundational assets you can possibly build. Now, these are the heavy hitters, for sure, and their potential is just enormous. The first one, and maybe the most powerful, is a business. I love this quote from Kiyosaki. The richest people in the world look for and build networks. Everyone else looks for a job. Now look, it is not easy. It takes a ton of work. But think about it this way. An employee might work for 40 years for a salary. An entrepreneur works like crazy for a few years to build a system that can then pay them for the rest of their life. Another classic path is real estate. And the strategy here is so cool because you're often using other people's money, like a bank loan, to buy an asset that makes you money. You buy a rental property, the tenant pays you rent, and that rent, maybe with a little of your own cash, pays off the mortgage. After a while, you own it outright. And from there, you can just do it again and again and build a whole portfolio of properties, all generating passive income. Of course, building a business from scratch or buying up property, that can feel like a huge mountain to climb. But the good news is there are way more accessible assets you can start building like right now, even if you don't have a ton of time or money. Paper assets are a fantastic place to start, especially if you're already in a demanding job. We're talking about things like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. You're basically buying a tiny piece of a huge business, or you're lending money to a company or government. Yeah, there's risk, and you definitely need to learn what you're doing, but it lets you start growing your money without having to quit your job and launch a whole new company. Next up, let's talk commodities. Think about the cash in your wallet. Why is it worth anything? Well, only because we have faith in the government that printed it. Kiyosaki calls that fiat currency. He contrasts it with what he calls God's money, stuff that has real intrinsic value on its own. Things like gold, silver, oil, even food. These are physical things that have been a store of wealth for centuries, and they can protect you when paper currencies get shaky. And that brings us right into the 21st century. online assets. The cool thing here is that the barrier to entry is just incredibly low. You could start a YouTube channel, offer services as a freelancer, build a website that makes money from affiliate marketing. You can do all this stuff with very little or even zero upfront cash. The real beauty here is that you can build something that becomes a source of passive income, an asset that's making you money while you sleep. So we've covered businesses, real estate, stocks, all that stuff. But now I want to talk about the two most important assets in the entire world. And the best part? You already own them. Your first and maybe most precious asset is time. Why? It's because of the absolute magic of compound growth. Look at this. An investor who starts at 20 can end up with a way bigger portfolio than someone who starts at 30, even if they put in the exact same amount of money each month. That one extra decade of your money making money, it makes a mind-blowing difference. This is the gospel according to Warren Buffett. He's been saying it his whole career. When you're young, you can take more risks, you can bounce back from mistakes, but the most important thing you have is time. Just time for your money to grow. So don't wait for the perfect moment. The best moment to start was yesterday. The second best is right now. And finally, we come to the most critical asset of all, your health. Gandhi said it perfectly. It is health that is real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver. I mean, think about it. Without good health, what's the point of any other asset? Poor health will drain your bank account with medical bills, sure, but it also drains your energy, your drive, and your ability to build anything else in your life. Investing in your health is the single best investment you will ever make. So here's a big takeaway. You're already wealthy. You're not starting from scratch. You already own the two most critical assets there are, time and health. So the only question left is, what are you going to do with them? Which asset will you choose to start building first on your journey to real freedom? The choice is yours.